Right. Welcome, everybody. You've joined the SHRF Solutions Program information session today. I am your host, Karen Tilsley. I am the Director of Programs and Partnerships at SHRF. And I'm also joined today, listening in and helping me out with the chat and everything, by my colleagues Tanya, Paulwyn, and Chelsea. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join today. We are recording the webinar and it will be posted on SHRF's YouTube channel. So the slides and the link to the recording will be sent out to anyone who registered next week. And yeah, we also have some of our partners attending today, and we're really grateful for their trust in SHRF and their commitment and investment to support Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation. To support Saskatchewan health research. So our partners, Brain Canada, Alzheimer's Society Saskatchewan, Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Foundation, and Lung Sask. So thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to join us today. I'll just take a moment to acknowledge I'm here on Treaty 6 lands and homeland of the Métis. With all these wildfires and smoke that we're experiencing, it's a great reminder of how intertwined our health and our environment are. And we're really grateful for everyone helping to fight those fires and hope that everyone stays safe and supported. A few housekeeping items. I mentioned we're recording this. It is a meeting format, so you are able at the end during question and answer, if you'd like to unmute yourself and turn on your camera, you're welcome to. We won't post that portion as part of the recording. We'll be sure to save at least 15 minutes at the end for questions. And we also have a chat. The chat box can also be used for questions at the end. I won't be looking at them throughout. My colleague Chelsea will be monitoring those and if anything is really timely, but hopefully we'll set the stage for any questions at the end as we go through. Right. So today's presentation is focused really on the information you need right now to think about submitting your eligibility for SHRF Solutions Program. So we'll spend a few moments just letting you know who SHRF is, and then we'll talk about those focus areas, the grants offered in the program, who can apply, making decisions about which funding opportunity. We'll go over a few key takeaways and again, be sure to leave time for questions at the end. So SHRF is a provincial agency, and our funding is received through Innovation Saskatchewan, and we have a mandate to support health research, innovation, knowledge mobilization taking place in the province. Oh, I think I've been one off on my slides. Apologize for that. I've been looking at my next slide. So here's my About SHRF slide. So yeah, and all of our programs and related activities are designed to advance our strategic goals. And yeah, so the key activities, we have a small but mighty staff of 10, and we execute on those goals by developing and executing research funding competitions, upholding a rigorous peer review process, partnering with other organizations. As I mentioned, that's a really important part of this program especially, and we're really grateful for those partnerships. We measure impact and share stories about the research we fund and act as a trusted neutral convener of the health research environment. So SHRF's mandate is to fund research related to human health, and we apply that definition very broadly to many fields and approaches. Our programs are designed to advance our strategic goals, to strengthen research capacity and competitiveness, increase investment in research and innovation, and align research with stakeholder needs. So we'll be hearing lots about the Solutions Program today. Our main opportunity through capacity is our establishment grant. So if you're an early career researcher, I encourage you to look into that opportunity, which is released in December every year. And we have a few different opportunities through our connections programs that we offer several intakes throughout the year to support defined projects and activities that focus on connecting research with those who can use it. And we also focus on partnerships on our own programs, as I mentioned, as well as partnering with other organizations that offer opportunities. And we currently have over 19 partnership agreements, and that really helps us expand our available resources and increase Saskatchewan's visibility on the national stage and hopefully connect researchers to more opportunities. If you want to keep up to date on all of the different partnership opportunities that SHRF has available or any of our programs, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. That's the best way to keep up to date. Okay, so we're going to talk more about the Solutions Program. So the purpose of the Solutions Program is to address timely Saskatchewan health challenges, create sustainable impact in a focus area, and mobilize the research community and partners, their skills, resources, and perspectives to address those things. So that's SHRF's rationale of how and why we've built the Solutions Program. And the grant opportunities available through the Solutions Program are meant to support research at different stages in the so-called innovation pipeline, as some people like to talk about it. So we support interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary teams that include knowledge users. The earlier stage in the pipeline is that innovation grant. So at that step, teams are catalyzing new ideas and approaches, looking for ways to address focus area gaps and needs and come up with innovative solutions that may or may not work out at the innovation stage, and that's okay. So those are more of a higher risk investment type of grant with a 1-year term and amount of $50,000. The impact grant represents a next stage in that innovation pipeline, advancing those promising solutions into real world and practical applications that continue to respond to those focus area gaps and needs. So impact grants have a term of 2 years and an amount of $150,000. And this pipeline isn't meant to be a one-way, one direction, one time kind of pipeline. It's just the notion that research moves through different stages, and these objectives represent research at these different stages. So there's no requirement to come in at the innovation and move to the impact. You can, maybe you've had previous work done and you're coming in with the impact grant at this stage, or maybe you had a previous impact grant and you have a new branch to that, and there's another impact grant. So it's not a, one-way straight pipeline. So the focus areas that we offer are, they evolve year to year. They're approved by our board, and they take into consideration a wide variety of factors related to the capacity in the research community, alignment with other stakeholders in the research environment, partnership opportunities, the feasibility and value add of offering that area, and the potential for impact. And we were very excited to announce earlier this year our 2-year partnership with Brain Canada to support brain health. And this also led to our longstanding partner, Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan, being able to increase their investments through solutions, as well as Jim Pattison Children's Hospital Foundation aligning to focus on pediatric brain health. So the funding we have available is represented here in this table. So this is just the I mentioned brain health is being offered for 2 years. This is just this current 25-26 competition. So there'll be new funding available next year related to brain health. So working with our partners, we have $2.4 million available this year for brain health overall. How that breaks down is $1.4 million for any area of brain health and $500,000 for research specific to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and $500,000 related to pediatric brain health. We're also pleased to continue our longstanding partnership with Lung Sask to support lung health research in the province. After the peer review process is completed, we look at every grant and its alignment with every focus area, knowing that it could align with multiple. And we fund grants respecting the rank order in each funding pool listed here. And we put grants in the pool that will allow us to fund the most overall while respecting that rank order within the pools. So this overall timeline of this 25-26 solutions competition, we released the application package on May 15th and also opened up the online system, the SHRF RMS. So yeah, we have this webinar today, and then the eligibility cutoff is September 18th. And then there's a window in there until October 3rd where we can go back and forth. But I will really highlight that it's an eligibility cutoff because eligibility can be done anytime up until then. So if you are ready to submit your eligibility next month, we will go through those steps with you. Might take a couple of weeks, allowing some time to connect with our partners, and we'll get those responses back to you. So that allows us some more time if applications are submitting throughout the summer to give you more opportunities maybe to explain and ensure that you're aligning, maybe change course a little bit so that your application is a good fit for the solutions program and or the focus area. So the eligibility is really between the applicants, SHRF, and then we bring in the partners to ensure alignment there as well. Just checking in with them. So there's no research office sign off for eligibility or anything like that. So you can go ahead, submit that. We'll take a look. We can go back and forth. And if you wait until the cutoff of the 18th, we have a time period there to go back and forth until October 3rd. And the application deadline is November 13th, which may look like it's close to October 3rd, but again, remember, you could get going on the eligibility anytime. You won't be able to see that full application in the online system until you've completed and passed the eligibility. And the application deadline, you will require research office sign off for that. So each institution has different guidelines for submitting and giving them enough time to complete whatever steps they need to do on their end and provide their signature. As applicants, you'll receive funding decisions March 5th, 2026, with the funding start date of March 1st. If you want to take a look at the previously funded projects, you can go to shrf.ca/stories and see the different types of projects, innovation, impact grants that have been funded. So we'll talk about who can apply. So we do require one person named as a principal investigator that meets this definition here. The grants really are a team effort, but that person takes on certain leadership responsibilities and has an affiliation with a Saskatchewan institution that SHRF has an MOU with, which is a really important relationship where we have defined roles and responsibilities that mean we can each do what we do best, and yeah, we have that trust in place. So the principal applicant needs to be someone who is autonomous in their research activities. So a trainee would not be considered autonomous or a contracted employee. They must be able to hold peer-reviewed funding and have that affiliation with the Saskatchewan SHRF MOU institution, that and be obliged to comply with those institutional policies and regulations about supervising staff and trainees, having ethical approval to conduct research, and those kind of things. And they should be someone that's generally based in Saskatchewan during the funding period of the grant, since SHRF's mandate is to support research happening in Saskatchewan. The institutions that currently have an MOU with SHRF, this list can grow, but currently we have the University of Regina, University of Saskatchewan, Sask Polytechnic, Saskatchewan Health Authority, First Nations University of Canada, as well as St. Thomas More College at the U of S and Suncrest College. So principal applicants with affiliation and ability to hold funds at these institutions are eligible. The rest of the team, they can be from anywhere. So when we talk about the rest of the team, we break down into three different categories. We talk about co-applicants, personnel, and supporters. So when SHRF talks about co-applicants, those are people who contribute to the intellectual, cultural, or scientific direction of the project. And we use different descriptors to try to represent the type of experience they're bringing as a co-applicant. So we have researchers, knowledge users, and people with lived experience. Personnel are categorized separately and would not be counted towards minimum team requirements. So personnel are any trainees or staff that are assigned and compensated to carry out specific aspects of the project, and compensated from the grant. Supporters can be individuals or organizations who provide a limited or defined role in the project and/or have interest in the proposed outcomes. So those supporters are not considered part of the minimum team requirements as part of the solutions program. They are very important, but they have a bit of a different role according to our definitions. So zooming in on that co-applicant area. So co-applicants generally cannot be compensated from grant funds. There are some exceptions. The SHRF funding guide goes into detail about allowable expenses and exceptions for compensation, for example, honoraria for people with lived experience. And yeah, so we've got the definitions here. So a researcher is someone who has formal training and holds a position which supports them to pursue research. A knowledge user is an individual interested in the applications of knowledge generated from the proposed research. And a person with lived experience is someone who supports the project through their personal experience with a health issue or experience as an informal caregiver. So one person might very well, in reality, encompass all of these definitions, but we ask that you select one label that represents your main contribution to the proposed project. So if you're on more than one project, you might even have a different role descriptor on each project, and that is fine. So each co-applicant is asked to fill out a contribution form, select the appropriate role descriptor, so that's the three listed here, and upload their CV or testimonial. So those minimum team requirements I've been referring to, that includes 3 Saskatchewan-based individuals as follows. So one researcher who meets the eligibility requirements for a principal applicant. a second researcher who brings a different disciplinary perspective and not a trainee, and a knowledge user who brings perspectives on the practical applications of the knowledge generated through the proposed research. So in the eligibility process, you'll explain to us how those how the three individuals minimum that you have at eligibility stage meet those requirements. After that, you can have additional people from Saskatchewan, outside of Saskatchewan in any role, and you can add more people after you go through eligibility. That's no problem. If the knowledge user that you named disappears between eligibility and the application, then you could run into problems with passing that eligibility screening when you submit your full application, sorry, the application screening. So what is required from team members? That includes co-applicants, supporters, and personnel. They're all asked to accept an email invitation, and that's you can think of really in lieu of providing a signature that they agree to be part of the research as described in the application. And then the contribution form for each of those individuals asks for their name and association, an estimate of the average number of hours per week, and a brief description of their role on the grant, as well as that a CV, researcher CV profile, knowledge user profile, or testimonial. And please note that though anyone, co-applicants, supporters, personnel, they can complete their own contribution form, or the principal applicant can do that on their behalf. Of course, getting the information from them as needed, however, is easiest working with their team. And if, of course, at any time individuals are having any trouble accepting an email invitation, anything like that, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's usually a quick fix on the back end for us to solve these, any unforeseen circumstance. And we also recognize that sometimes there are people involved on research teams that for example, someone might be displaced by the wildfires right now that's involved in research, and they're not able to access email, as an example. We'll work with you to find a way to make it work. So if you're encountering any situations like that, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out and just let us know the situation, and we'll figure out a way to make it work. Some things to think about when you're building your team overall is ensuring that you have the relevant expertise. So the relevant expertise to connect with any participants or work with any materials, to do the methods, to do the analysis, to share the results. So all of those areas throughout the research, you want to have those people on the team and committed to this project. Everyone should have a clear role and demonstrate how their expertise or experience is contributing to addressing the research question or the potential impacts and next steps down the line. Considering how you're building capacity and mentorship for trainees and early career researchers is a wonderful way to weave in and have a really robust team. And when it's relevant, people with lived experience and knowledge users from a variety of areas to ensure that the research is appropriate, relevant, usable, and any supporters that might be health system decision makers, community leaders, industry partners, the list goes on. So any of those that you think would be important to engage, it's great to do that early on and demonstrate their interest and engagement. We do have a dedicated webpage, shrf.ca/your research team, that has a lot of step-by-step connecting links to video tutorials, documents needed, everything you need step by step So that might be a resource that you share with a team member or that you use to help walk through with them through the different steps of participating on the grant application. So for principal applicants, you are restricted to one application per competition for the solutions program. So that includes innovation or impact. So just one of those. You, however, can be a co-principal applicant on other projects, and that is totally fine, as well as any other role. Teams who have submitted to previous competitions, maybe there's crossover in the focus areas, you are welcome to resubmit. We would hope revise and resubmit those applications. And there is a spot on the form to allow you to respond to any comments that you received through the review process and show how they've been addressed or why you made the decision that you did originally, just really showing that you've given those comments consideration. And renewal, so that idea I was talking about earlier, that the pipeline isn't straight one way and you have to exit after two grants or anything like that. So if you've had a solutions grant in the past, you're a team as a PI, anything like that, you are welcome to apply with a new project, and it might be building new questions from previous work that's been funded through solutions, and that is fine. And of course, your proposal, as you would expect, should highlight your previous progress through those other grants to show how this one is distinct and really building. So which opportunity do you apply for? So picking innovation versus impact is a key consideration. And this isn't about the amount or the grant term. That shouldn't be the deciding factor. It's really about those objectives and the stage of the project. And this is something that, if you selected one in the eligibility process, we might have some questions and we might go back and forth and maybe we make a recommendation that you switch, or maybe you just explain something and we're like, oh, yep, that makes sense. So yeah, it's really about the grant objectives. And remember that a timeline when you're submitting to SHRF, that 1 year grant, that 2 year grant, it's like the perfect scenario. Everything goes well. There's no ethics delays. Your participants are recruited in a reasonable time. There's no disruptions because of wildfires or whatever, COVID or anything like that. We don't expect you to account for those kinds of things. We expect that you're putting an optimistic, reasonable, doable timeline forward. And then we will, if you're funded, then and some unforeseen things happen, then we will support you to extend that grant with a no-cost extension and adjust your timeline. So um, so you can work with that optimistic scenario, and and the impact grant, if it's an impact type project and it's a 2 year project, but you don't need 150,000, you don't have to ask for 150,000. Your research might be much lower cost, or you have many other supports, and this is, sort of complementing those, then that's not points against you for asking for less than the maximum grant amount. When you're thinking about the focus areas, you only need to fit one, but you can fit multiple. So the advantage to fitting multiple is that you have multiple funding pools that you're eligible for, so that could increase the chances of your grant being funded. But there's nothing wrong, nothing in the review process that itself, in the evaluation of your application, that would favor fitting more than one focus area, for example. Just in that the allocation stage, you'd have additional chances, like I mentioned. And thinking about then the knowledge user is a really key consideration at this stage. So, who would implement this solution? Who can help you develop it? Who would really take this forward? So that SHRF we support so many different types of research. It's really, fascinating to hear about all the different types of work going on. So what a knowledge user looks like for your particular project is, yeah, could be a lot of different things. So happy to talk that through if you have a question about that. So this first hurdle is the eligibility check. And why do we do that? So as I've alluded to, we want to look for that alignment in the innovation versus impact grant and the solutions program overall. We want to ensure that the principal applicant is eligible to hold SHRF grant funding. And it's really important for helping us create review committees that, first of all, that we have enough reviewers and committees to review all of the applications and keep their workload reasonable and to have the right mix of expertise. We are able to get external reviewers for really specific expertise, but we find multidisciplinary committees have a great capacity and great discussions about applications that are out of their niche area, but they bring a lot of expertise to various aspects. So this eligibility check gives us information to help us do a good job of that. We would check in with our partners at eligibility to confirm there's no flags from their side so that when funding decisions are made at the following peer review, there's no last minute questions popping up about, oh, can we fund this? We want to deal with anything like that early on. And if there's any, unique circumstances, we and just the formalizing that we reviewed this information and the reviewers can see, maybe if they have a question about something, it's all there. They can see that SHRF staff have approved that. And sorry, just to clarify, the peer reviewers don't see any of the information that you provide through the eligibility check. Only if we leave specific comments in a specific field, if there's anything of note to clarify for the reviewers. So the eligibility things you want to be thinking about so you can get on the RMS and start filling it out. You want to think about which focus area does your research address and how. Which grant is most suitable for your proposed project, who's on your team, preparing a draft title and a brief overview of your planned research. And we also ask you for 3 suggested reviewers from Canada, but outside of Saskatchewan. And those reviewers, they might be contacted, but they also really help us see the types of expertise that are needed to evaluate your application. So the suggestions are really helpful, but they may or may not be people that we reach out to. In a little more detail, when you're doing the eligibility, you're asked about the fit with the program. So we've really broken out some prompts here to try to get the information from you that we need without asking you to write. Like we don't, need endless amount of writing here. These prompts are really meant to guide you on the information that we need. So the fit with the program, we want to know specifically what is the problem or need. And that can help us see how it aligns with the focus area, that it's a solutions-oriented research because you have identified the problem, need, or gap at this stage. And that's really what sets this all up for being a solutions project. So what is the proposed solution? It might be something novel, or it might be building on existing evidence. So if you lay that out for us briefly, that really helps us see how you fit with innovation versus impact. the audience who would benefit or implement the solution. So you're thinking ahead about who can use this knowledge and how they could be involved, and specifically how that at least one knowledge user on the team would contribute. And the proposed research overview, this is the piece that really helps us recruit reviewers. So keep that in mind. So the types of things we're looking for here are the topic, the study population, the objectives, and the key methodology features. So we can ensure we have the right mix of expertise on the committees. I will take this opportunity just to highlight two opportunities that have deadlines in July coming up here that might help strengthen your proposal. So the Align grant is $10,000 and supports development and engagement work where you're really reaching outside of academia to help shape the activities of your research and align them with the needs of Saskatchewan. So that might be a great opportunity for you to alongside as you're developing your solutions here, or maybe you complete this work and if your application isn't successful next year, well, this is also a great opportunity, this call or a future call through the Align grant to really keep your project moving forward and responding to those needs. And there's also a Mobilize grant that could be a good opportunity. So that grant supports knowledge mobilization in practical, non-academic settings. And that deadline is July 9th. So just to review a few key takeaways from what you should be thinking about right now. So identify how your research fits with one or more of the focus areas, innovation or impact grant objectives, and we do welcome applications from all areas of research. The expertise and experience of the team that you need to address all the key components of the project's focus, methodological approaches, analysis, intended outcomes, and your team might grow in between eligibility and the full application deadline, and that's fine. Be clear on who the knowledge users are from the get-go and have at least one person on board for eligibility. You can use those SHRF resources to support their participation. And at eligibility, clearly and distinctly addressing both the fit with the opportunity for SHRF and partner consideration and those project goals and approaches to support reviewer recruitment. And I've got two slides here with some other application tips at a high level. And then, yeah, we'll be moving into questions in a couple of minutes here. So generally use that proposal space wisely. I think it's 6 pages for innovation and 8 pages for impact. Reviewers do tend to get suspicious if you use less than the amount needed for a proposal. But I think usually people find it harder to cut down to those maximum page limits. So take a look at other areas of the application. So if you've described the role of the team in the roles and responsibilities document, you don't need to repeat that information in the proposal in the same way. So take a look, you might have some duplication there. Keep the background succinct. The reviewers aren't, one of the criteria is not the so-called importance or burden of the specific issue, disease. That's not what the focus is. The focus is on outlining the context that your project is working in and how your proposal is addressing that gap. What is that gap or need? How do you know it's a gap or need? And how is your project addressing that and why it's an important next step? So you don't need, half a page or a page on the fact that, a particular disease is burdensome or affects a certain amount of people. Those might be woven in, but that's not really the focus of the background. Be realistic. Fewer convincing and feasible objectives are better than many insufficiently described objectives. And you can think about the bigger picture and the larger scope of the objectives when you're talking about future directions, maybe in the impact section of the application, but you want to keep your proposed research feasible and realistic and coherent. Grantsmanship is really important. Having colleagues and others read your application, and really keeping the reader in mind, your audience for this are multidisciplinary reviewers from outside Saskatchewan. So they may not have certain insider details about the Saskatchewan research environment. They will be Canadian, so they'll have that context. And they might be from slightly outside your discipline, and they're most certainly very busy people who are generous and very engaged and give wonderful feedback, but it's a lot of reading. So think about them, think about you in that position, reading your application, and how all the writing is put together. And little things like typos, they're not going to be the end of your grant, but altogether it comes to speak to grantsmanship overall. Study the review criteria in the application package. So all of the review criteria and the weighting is laid out in the solutions application package. That is exactly what the reviewers will see when they're evaluating your application. So read those now, read those later, read those again later, and think about, have you left any gaps? Is there a criteria, is there a bullet point under one of the criteria that you really haven't addressed that the reviewer is going to look at that and maybe see that as a gap in your application. And consider your application as a whole. So does the information provided in each section, so for example, the information you provided in your budget, the in-kind sources you've identified, the personnel that you've identified or plan to hire, the amount of time that each person is committing. Do all of these things come together to tell a logical story about what you would like to achieve with this grant and how you will go about doing that? And of course, the importance of it is woven throughout, but all of those pieces really come together cohesively to tell that story. And that can be a real strength when you think about those things working all together. So your main contacts for this program are myself, Karen, and for any questions about the eligibility or program requirements. And Tanya is your go-to person for anything on the RMS, helping you, or if you're, any team members you're working with having a problem, anything like that, Tanya can help you out. And of course, Pawan and Chelsea we all work closely together to support any questions or anything that's happening that you need support with. Okay, so this is my last slide here. So a few helpful resources for you to check out. Our SHRF.ca/opportunity is where all of our open funding opportunities are listed. And that's where you could access the application package to download and link into the SHRF RMS. The SHRF newsletter, you can sign up by going to shrf.ca/contact. If you've ever applied for SHRF before, we've automatically signed you up, I believe. The SHRF funding guide really works hand in hand with the application package. So the application package touches very briefly on eligible expenses, for example, and the funding guide gives much more detail. So we try not to repeat really those two documents, the solutions application package and the SHRF funding guide really work hand in hand. There's also an RMS manual available on that webpage as well. And we have how-to videos on our YouTube channel that can be helpful for different stages of the application.